when should someone start working on their mental game? Right away, if they want to take this as a serious activity, of a state of sort of relaxed focus is what we're looking for. I think even the knowledge of, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, can relieve a lot of pressure from players who they're sort of in a state of confusion as to why they're not winning. Look for the pattern that you're demonstrating that's the biggest self-sabotage. It's very hard to resolve these things on your own because usually they're blind spots. And it's that process over and over again in different areas, trying to remove these trigger responses and turn it into strategic thinking.
Hey, Elliot, thanks for being here. And it's a pleasure to have you for the conversation.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, I have consumed a ton of your content, so it's really a pleasure to actually chat about it right now.
Yeah.
And you, as a person who got in my head the phrase being the best version of yourself, I guess. So maybe we can open by you sharing your thoughts, what that actually means to you, and how to understand it.
Yeah, so I like to think that all of us are on this journey of trying to become the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. And I don't ever see it as something that has an end goal. So there is no happy ever after. There's no day when you
Right.
say, "Hey, this is the day I'm the best version of me," and the whole process stops. But it's more of a, constantly sharpening the blade, looking for areas where you can improve, and working on those areas and trying to get those small percentage improvements that over time really compound. So when I'm working with clients, we're obviously working a lot on any emotional issues that may be holding them back. But then you have all of the real life things as well. So the health and fitness, the amount of sleep that you get, the way that you communicate with others, the relationships you have in your life. And I think all of these different areas work together towards like trying to find that optimal version of you that, as I say, you have to accept that you're never going to be it, but
Right.
you're working towards it, and there should be joy and fun taken in that journey and the sort of the
Ooh,
progress towards this better version of yourself.
I like that framing, actually enjoying the journey, right? Sort of a slogan, but kind of powerful one, because as you say, like probably you'll not wake up and say, oh, okay, I did everything. Now I'm the best in everything. Yeah, and just don't do anything more to become even better. So yeah, I think if you're able to, it's not easy to think about it as a journey, I guess, to some degree, but if you're able to think about it, really makes it much easier. But I guess,
Yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah, I mean, I guess this also can be the same both in poker and outside it. Uh, well, what I definitely want to touch both of these areas, but probably starting with poker makes a lot of sense. I have to
Mm.
say, like, I have watched your A game masterclass from start to finish.
Yeah.
I would not lie saying 3 times. Uh,
Okay.
and I do think it is like, for me personally, was the most impactful training ever, period.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
yeah, it's really insane how much it helped to frame the mindset and put some systems in place and understand like these small steps and effect it can have in the long run.
Yeah.
But that training is, let's say, not accessible to everyone, right? Because of the price range. But
Mm.
for the good news, you just launched a new book, which
Yeah.
also covers a lot of similar things. So maybe you can share your what is all about, who is it for, and let's take it from here again.
Yeah, so I wrote it with my business partner Ryan Carter. We've been working together on this subject for over 10 years now. And really what we wanted to do was share this idea of A game poker, so as with the A game masterclass. But obviously in a book format, we can share that with a much wider audience. So, it's not possible to get all of the information in the book, but we wanted to create a framework so that poker players can understand, hey, this is what professionalism looks like. And these are the steps you need to go through if you want to be a serious poker player. I think one of the definitions we put in the book that I think is really important is if you treat the poker as a game, you're probably going to be break even or a losing player, but you might have fun. But if you treat it as a professional, you have the opportunity to make the same money as a professional athlete.
Ooh, I like
It's a
it.
really different mindset
Yeah.
that players have because so many people over the years say, "Hey, Elliot, this is just a fun game for me," and that's absolutely fine. But accept that if it's a fun game for you and the people you're playing against are treating it as a professional sport, it's very
Yeah.
likely they're going to end up with your money over the long run.
We're
And
not
the
playing
book
on the same
creates
field pretty much.
no, it's just like a different, it's completely different
Yeah.
activity. Um, and we wanted to really share this information with the poker playing public and sort of say, if you don't understand why you're losing, perhaps it's these reasons. So there's obviously a lot of technical parts of the game that the players need to work on, but they also need to understand what the high level professionals are actually doing in the background that sets them apart. And, I've been fortunate. I've worked with a very large number of highly successful poker players over the years. It's something ridiculous now. Like I think MTT players, it's over $200 million they've cashed, and a lot of the big names in poker have been kind enough to share that they've worked with me. And I know what's going on in the background, and I can see the changes they make that have the big impact on their win rates. And the book is about understanding these types of like activities, this fine tuning, that can give you that extra edge. And not everyone's going to read the book and do all of the steps. Like that's just
Sure,
reality.
that's true.
But they'll have the option to, and they'll know what they're not doing, and they'll have an understanding as to, maybe I'm not winning, but maybe it's because I'm choosing to not put this effort in.
Okay.
And I think that was a sort of an important message to share. So that's the idea behind the book is we wanted to share what the professionals are doing and help close that gap for those out there who want to become highly successful professional poker players. And then also sharing sort of my thesis, which is you bring your issues to the table rather than poker creating them.
Okay,
So
can you elaborate on that one?
yeah, so poker's a high stress environment. So it amplifies what you already have.
Hmm.
So if you're an angry person, you'll see more anger at the table.
No, I
If
have
you're an
seen that.
anxious, yeah, and if you're an anxious person, you'll see more anxiety. And a lot of people are like, oh, poker made me feel this way. All that poker did was amplify something that was already there. Because some people have their aces cracked and they couldn't care less.
Right.
Other people, it ruins their day. Okay, so it's not the sort of the run of the cards. It's the person's personal emotional situation that's like how they then relate to the run of the cards. And a lot of the stories in the book that the professionals were kind enough to share are the sort of the issues that they brought with them to the poker table, and then how that related to their past and how we worked through those issues in hypnotherapy sessions. There's an interesting story from John Van Fleet, Ape Styles, who's a well-known MTT player online, and he talks about being the bigger bully. So he used to, if someone continually three bet him, he used to get hyper aggressive, and he used to try and sort of out out aggression anybody in those situations, and realized that he was giving away stacks in situations where there was no need to. And it's sort of there's a story there of bullying in childhood and him deciding he was a bigger kid and sort of bullying the bullies, and how
Hmm.
by overcoming this he was able to let go of it at the poker table. And it's just a really cool story that explains this sort of program that's created in childhood, how it then shows itself in the poker table, and then how by working through those issues you can release those programs and just go back to rational poker.
Okay, I love this example, sure. I have, for the full disclosure, I have done hypnotherapy quite a few
Yeah.
times, and it was insanely helpful for the reasons you mentioned. You just come up with things you do not even think about. Like this,
Yeah.
literally, not something you can dig up working with a solver or pretty much doing anything else, as far as I know. But I love that at this point, there's so much information that is readily available. Your book is a great example. When I was playing
Mm.
like 10 years ago, we didn't knew what best players are doing. No one was, well, the best players were not doing even close to that much what they're doing right now. I do
Yeah.
remember like reaching a final table and everyone having beers, cheering. Uh, it is, when I think back about right now, it is so ridiculous and something you would never see right now, pretty much, right? So the world is a bit different, and it's nice that now you have some information and can approach it differently as well. I really love the thought of Phil Galfond when we talked about this as well, and he mentioned like the common knowledge was like you need to work on your mental game when you reach like nosebleeds or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous, right? Because like you probably need to work on it even from whenever you start playing, because it's can increase your edge significantly more even on lower stakes. So what is your take on that? Like when you should start working on your game, or is just something you should do?
So I think it depends how seriously you want to take poker. So if you're someone who's playing poker to make money, I think you should see working on your mental game as something that's it's just a part of your game. It's like saying when should you work on your technical game? It's like from the very
Right,
beginning you should be aware of it and you should be working on improving your strategies. The same with mental game. Bankroll management is what crushes most players. I believe
right.
that's a mindset issue. So
Okay.
it's extraordinarily important for anyone who wants to take the game seriously. If you're using poker to relax and gamble at the end of the week, maybe it's not so important
But even
because
then,
yeah, I mean, but you're turning up to lose, and that's a lot of players. I don't think they're accepting that that's what they're doing, but they are turning up to lose, and that's okay. They're allowed to, in the same way people
sure.
go and play blackjack.
Yeah.
If you play blackjack or roulette, you're showing up to lose, or slot machines. Like it's
But I guess,
mathematically give the money away.
yeah, you don't probably not have an option to think that you're going to win in the long run. While in poker, you can be deceived and think that you are going to win while you don't really have much of a chance, actually. So maybe
and
that's the difference here.
and that's what we wanted to share with the book. Is
Okay.
this if you want to win, these are the steps you should be taking, right?
Mm.
And this is the process. This is how the professionals do it. This is the behind the curtain. And if you're not doing these things and you're not willing to put in the effort, don't be surprised if you're a losing poker player because
Right.
the game is that competitive now. So as you say, when should someone start working on their mental game? Right away if they want to take this as a serious activity. If they're not taking it as a serious activity, then they're welcome to show up at the table and spend some money.
Right. I like that answer. Yeah, please bring more of these players, right? J-
Exactly. We need them in the economy.
yeah.
We can't fix everybody.
But jokes aside, like even if you're playing recreationally and you get tilted by losing, it's still a good
Yeah.
idea to buy a book, which is like whatever. It's pretty much
Oh,
free, right? And if that help you feel better, even like few percent, I think like
oh,
it's like the
it
best
should be
investment you
free.
can.
I mean, the book, especially, I think I don't know, it's probably like $25,
Right.
but the Kindle's like $10 or something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, for anyone who's playing, any sort of stakes in poker, reading the book and working through it should improve their game dramatically in terms of if they follow the instructions and they take it to heart. But I think even the knowledge of, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing can relieve a lot of pressure from players who they're sort of in a state of confusion as to why they're not winning.
Okay. Just
So
knowing that.
yeah, so just having an idea that this is what's really happening. This is why I'm not winning. These are the steps if I choose that I want to become a serious player. These are the steps I need to take. Mental game wise, that they still need a technical coach. They still need to be doing all of their study. We touch on it in the book, but obviously, it's not a technical poker book.
Sure.
Um, but I think just helping players understand what the sort of the bare minimum if you want to be a winner is these days.
Yeah, I mean, if
Uh,
you understand what you need to learn, that's a huge step. Because if you don't know
yeah,
that, I mean, that's shooting in the dark pretty much. And
yeah,
that's a huge illusion in poker specifically, because it's so easy to get tricked that you need to understand, I don't know, exciting spots like check raising big on the river, which you play once in a week, rather to someone that you do every day and just not interesting, so you don't learn it. That's pretty
yeah.
funny thing. But like you
Uh,
mentioned, you do have step-by-step guides here, right? So I'm really interesting. Is there a way to identify like how to prioritize what you actually need to learn, or that is extremely individual thing?
um, well, I mean, it's individual, but I think it's always, whatever is done the most effort should be put into it.
Also, basically
So
going back to analogy I just said, right? If you
yeah,
just
so
you need to know your opening ranges before anything else, pretty much.
exactly, and if you haven't got your opening ranges down, looking at that rare river spot is just a waste of time.
Right.
And
And can you say something like that from the mental side of things, like leaving technical side apart? Like what are the most important parts, or like have you seen a pattern in what is the most challenging for most people?
everyone's an individual when it comes to mental game. But what I would say is just look for the pattern that you're demonstrating that's the biggest self-sabotage.
Hmm.
So for some
What
people, it's
triggers it?
yeah, like I mean, they'll go down two buy-ins and then they'll play a 20-hour session, and they'll end up 10 buy-ins down because they're not in a position to be able to play 20 hours of focused poker.
Sure.
There are people who will shot take with 50% of their roll over and over again. And then obviously, if you keep doing that, you're going to have a bad session where you're going to lose 50% of your roll.
Right.
Like it's going to happen. And the stress of the situation means it's more likely to happen. So when it comes to mental game, it's really looking for repeating patterns in your career that are costing you large sums of money and then hitting those first and then working backwards.
Okay. I
Um,
like that.
and anywhere that there's a physical response at the poker table, that you can viscerally feel.
What do you mean by
So,
physical response? Like you feel something yourself, like choking or a pain somewhere, stuff like that?
oh no, more like an emotional response. Like if there's when people have anxiety, they
Oh,
might
okay.
feel a tightness in their chest, a sickness
Right.
in their stomach. They might flush. Their heart might start racing. They're usually signs that you're bringing something to the table that's a program from childhood.
But
So
it's
they're the
not
things.
something you can fix yourself, like easy, or even notice yourself. I guess it's pretty hard to notice it yourself, right?
I think they can, if you start thinking about it and looking out for it, you can notice it. So if you're at the poker table and every time you bluff, your heart is racing and you're feeling nervous and your breathing's going, then there's clearly something there for you to work on with a mindset coach.
Right.
Like it's just,
Yeah, so that's what I was getting to pretty much, because
yeah,
like even if you identify it, it's pretty hard to sort of fix it self, right? So if
yeah,
someone identified these errors, what are the next steps? Like contacting
it-
you, anyone from your team? How does that work like in practice?
yeah. So the first thing is, as I say, this awareness, and sometimes the awareness resolves the issue.
Hmm.
So some people are able to, once they're aware of a repeating pattern, they're able then to release it on their own. If they're not able to do that, then working with a coach. So as you say, we have a team of coaches for everyone at every different stake level, where we can utilize hypnotherapy to work through. And then also, if you're not interested in working with a coach, a good starting point is a meditation practice. So utilizing our app Primed Mind, you can download that for free. But also any sort of mindfulness meditation practice will typically help to some extent. But it's my belief that if there's a trigger firing because of something that happened in your past, the best way of working through that is with a subconscious modality like hypnotherapy, where you're digging into that particular issue, working through it, understanding where it came from and how to release it. So I would recommend, if you're having significant physical responses to things at the poker table, then that's when I would say, hey, reach out to a coach, apply on a website, and we'll find someone for you at the right sort of price point depending on the stakes you're playing. But as you say, it's very hard to resolve these things on your own because usually they're blind spots. So we're hiding where it came from because we don't like facing those issues or accepting that those issues there and why they appeared. So oftentimes it takes a third party to help push you through those
All right.
difficult parts of your life and help you to release them. And oftentimes these are quite emotional sessions, but the release of that emotion is what allows that change to happen.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, went through these sessions quite a few times, so it's not as complicated as it sounds. So maybe you can take one step back and say, like, what is hypno? Because someone reading and hearing it for the first time, like, it might
Okay.
sound a bit suspicious, I
Yeah, there's
guess.
no magic around
Right. You're
this.
not running around like chickens. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, unfortunately, the media portrayal is of this all-powerful hypnotherapist. It's nothing like that. It's like guided meditation. So let's pretend you're coming to me, because when you get three bet by the same player in live cash games, you start to get either really anxious or really angry, right? So if this same guy keeps three betting you, hey, I keep getting irrationally angry and I get overly aggressive in this situation. Okay. So we go into the hypnotherapy, and the beginning is like a guided meditation process. So be like, close your eyes, take a deep breath. And we run through this relaxation process where the client gets into a trance like meditative like state. So the state that we're looking for is if you're like driving down the highway and you sort of forget that you've driven through 3 or 4 junctions, but you've driven safely through them, but it sort of feels a bit like a blur. That's the state that we're looking to reach. So it's a natural state that occurs in everyday life, as of a state of sort of relaxed focus, is what we're looking for. We get the client into that state, and then their subconscious mind becomes dominant over the conscious mind. So, what that means is when we're connecting back to memories and emotions, we're going directly into the subconscious. It's a bit like instead of the Windows program on your PC going into the DOS behind the Windows. So, why the Windows is showing up. Um, and it starts to bring up memories in a way they wouldn't come up in a normal conversation. So if I said to you now, why are you feeling this way? You're probably like, I don't know, maybe something happened in childhood. But in a hypnotherapy session, these memories pop up like bang, 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 bang. And these memories will start to show themselves. And oftentimes there's a very obvious theme as to what's happening. For this particular issue, it's almost always school bullying. So the being three bet repeatedly is triggering emotions from childhood around school bullying. So eventually we'll get to a memory at 8 years old and another 8-year-old kid punched you or something like this. Um, for 8-year-old you, that was a terrifying moment and it felt like life and death because maybe you'd never been attacked before, you'd never been that scared before. And it was stored in that 8-year-old's mind as a very significant danger. To 35-year-old you, this is two 8-year-olds having a fight. And this isn't a life and death situation. So we change the framing of that memory. So we release the emotion from it. We forgive the bully who's just an 8-year-old kid. We move forward from all of it. And by changing the framing from the adrenaline response of an 8-year-old to the reality of the situation looking in as a 35-year-old, um, the way the memory is stored as a trigger is different. So it's no longer a trigger that needs to fire every time it feels like someone's bullying you. So we go back to the poker table after these sessions, and sometimes it takes a few sessions, but this is the process. Um, when the client goes back to the table, when this has been resolved, the three betting is just something to adjust to rather than an emotional personal attack. So we want to turn all of these things that are firing the triggers from our past and basically make them neutral, and they're just technical decisions at the poker table. And it's that process over and over again in different areas, trying to remove these trigger responses and turn it into strategic thinking.
Okay, that's not a very easy explanation, I guess, but a very clear one. So pretty much dealing with the actual trigger that evoked these emotions while playing, and if you're able to release that, you can then just concentrate on the actual situation and react without those emotions. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I believe we're relatively simplistic creatures. The way that we generate fears through childhood are, basically, it's very easy to pick up a fear. So you're in the jungle 50,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, whatever it is, and your mum starts screaming because there a tiger is there and grabs you. Baby you starts to become scared of tigers because it's learned that they're dangerous. So it's really useful as a survival technique to pick up fears in that way. So anytime there's an extreme response from a parent or a danger response for yourself, a child can then pick that up as a fear because that keeps them alive longer.
Right.
We've kept this same process into the modern world where it's not so useful in the modern world. So, public speaking when you're at school and you don't know how to do it very well and all the other kids laugh, right? That can create a fear of public speaking, right? Again, 20,000 years ago, that might have been useful. Right now, that's a big negative.
Mhm.
And fortunately, with modalities like this, we can go back to those memories, adjust how they're viewed, and remove those triggers. It's a strange but very effective process.
Well, not so strange, I guess. Like as you say, many years ago, everything was kind of fight or flight, right? And
Yeah.
it was needed to survive. But some things that are stored in our memories are definitely not helping us anymore. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain it, but working through it is sort of a life-changing experience, I guess, in some regards. So if anyone want to get their feet wet, I guess actually getting the book and reading through it is a very good first start here. just to
Yeah.
understand like what it's all about, how that works. So yeah, do that, guys. I mean, the course that I had was like, as I said, the best learning experience that helped me the most, I think, in the all
Oh,
grand scheme. Um, and it was not just about poker. So I guess that's also something I love to chat with you. You obviously work like the top professionals in many areas, like business, athletes, investors, you name it, right?
yeah.
So you have very unique take. You saw both poker world and inside of it, and the other part of like business, which many people I even personally know are moving from poker to business or from business to poker. So it's definitely interrelated. Like, I mean, even my personal story is kind of like that. At some point, it was very conscious decision to stop playing poker because it was not really sustainable because I didn't want to play through the nights where were the best games. I want to spend more time with my family. I realized it's not scalable the way I imagined. I would end up still changing my time for money, which is what it was not a bad deal at that time. But when I think like what I want to be doing 10 years from then, I made that conscious decision. So
Yeah.
I'm really wondering, like seeing both sides of the coin, we can say, what advantages you see poker players can bring to other fields? What are their strengths?
I would say first off, if you're a successful poker player in the modern world, um, the amount of effort that needs to put in to become a successful poker player, I don't think many other industries you have to put in the same amount of effort. So if you bring that same work ethic to almost any other industry, you're going to be successful versus the average person.
Okay.
And I've definitely seen that. This is much more true now, in 2024 than when I was originally working with poker players in 2011, 2012. They weren't putting in very much work.
Right, that's true. That's when
So
I was
it
playing. I
was,
can
yeah,
double that.
yeah. But these days, like if you're successful in 2023 as a poker player, I believe it's highly likely moving to another industry, you're also going to be highly successful if you bring that same work ethic. Obviously, the strategic thinking is incredibly important. Um, decision making skills, ability to control your emotions. These are things that are very useful in business. Sometimes there are some deficits when it comes to communication. If someone's worked on their own as an online poker player over the last 10, 15 years, it can be difficult for them to get used to working in a group environment because it's just such a shift. But that is something that typically they get over and they work through, and it's something they can improve on over time. But as I say, if you're capable of beating poker, it's highly likely that you can find something that's uncapped because poker is capped really. That you're also capable of beating. I've certainly seen a lot of pokers become very successful traders and make a lot more money in trading than they would have been able to make in poker.
Okay, I like that analogy. I also know a couple of guys who moved to trading, and it seems
Mm.
actually to have quite more similarities than you could think initially. But I really love your take. So pretty much other areas might be having better risk reward ratio for the efforts you put in. I never thought about that one.
Well, I think what it is poker's a fun game,
It
and a
is.
huge number of people play it recreationally, and they dream of becoming a professional poker player. And anytime something is fun, there's going to be many more people trying to do it at a high level and make money out of it. It's
Mm.
like golf. Loads of people love playing golf. It is really hard to become a professional golfer, right? Because or soccer. How many people want to be a professional soccer player in the world? Like, every 9-year-old boy. So you're competing against every 9-year-old boy. Um, how many people want to, I don't know, install air conditioning units to houses? Right? That's
A
not a
few less
dream.
probably.
Yeah, exactly. But what that means is like if you put a ton of effort into installing air conditioning units and act as if you love this and you want to make it massive and you do all of the things right, your competition won't be doing everything right in the same way they are in passion project like poker. And I'm not saying everyone should quit poker and move into,
No, of
air
course.
conditioning units, but just be aware that because it's fun, it's dramatically more competitive. And if you take this level of hard work to something that's not a hobby for lots of people, then you can see outsized financial returns and often uncapped financial returns in other industries. Whereas poker, it might seem uncapped, because there are guys playing in super high rollers and private games that are so huge. But the truth is, like, in trading, I've seen people make hundreds of millions of dollars. I haven't seen poker players make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sure.
I've seen them become very successful, but when we're talking about the really huge amounts of money, I've seen that with clients, who've moved into trading and have been able to reach those levels. And I don't believe I'll ever see that with a poker player. Or if it is, it's some extreme game in Macau or some strange, but it's
Sure,
it's
but
not
even
going to be
if you have
something
one
that's
off, that
yeah,
still
it's
doesn't make a rule.
exactly. But those things are available, in other industries. They're still extraordinarily rare, but they're possible. Um,
Right.
and in
I
poker,
mean, I
yeah.
see quite a few people quitting poker for after this video, but what can you do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So come on, buy again poker and quit poker. Um, I mean, I do think it's a wonderful stepping stone to treat yourself teach yourself professionalism and evolve you as a human being. So it's so hard to win at poker that if you can reach that stage and you can enjoy the lifestyle and you can do all of the things you need to do, it's an incredibly valuable skill set moving on in the rest of your life.
No, I
Um,
agree.
so I would say, it's still a very positive thing to do. It's a lot of fun. There's a very large amount of money in it, but just be honest with yourself about where the cap is if you're someone who's so driven by money that, if you're looking for a potential at nine figures, um, this is a step on the road to reaching a new industry where that's available. It's not the industry that's going to help you reach that
Yeah.
point.
And as you say, it's not even like it was 10 years ago. Like the games are insanely competitive. And if you're not ready to work your ass off, you don't really have a chance anymore. So that's also a point to that direction, I guess.
Well, I think one of the changes there is that, as you said earlier, the information wasn't available. So, we didn't have the solvers telling people what to do. So you had to be naturally intelligent and try and solve the problems yourself. And now it's the person who works the hardest wins because all of the information is there. And if someone decides they're going to study 30 hours a week for 2 years, they're going to be better than the person who studies
Yeah.
5 hours a week, because it's just assimilating publicly available information. Whereas 10 years ago, the information literally didn't exist and it was trial and error. And that meant natural intelligence was worth an awful lot more in the poker world.
Yeah. So, guys, rethink your career choice.
Or work very hard and make a
Or
fortune.
work very hard. Yeah. Only two options, pretty much. So, jokes
Yeah.
aside, if someone is actually considering quitting poker, but and they do have a skill set. Let's assume like they are a winning player, but they are like sort of breaking evish with there are many more players that probably would like to agree, I guess. Um,
Mm.
how they could identify like what they could do next. You said they have a huge skill set that could be valuable in many different areas. How to find that passion, how to pursue like different things. How would you advise on that step?
I mean, I would try some different jobs. I would speak to anyone in your network. I mean, have a talk to everyone that you know who has a job that you might like and learn about it. I mean, some of the obvious ones, as we stated, trading is an obvious conversion. But there are also other, data-driven jobs that might not at first seem to be particularly data-driven, but they are. So e-commerce, is
Oh, okay,
something
that's interesting example.
because you're looking at, the analytics of, the adverts and which advert is performing better and how you can optimize your adverts to make more money. So there is actually a decent amount of crossover, I think, between e-commerce and poker because it's data analysis. The same with SEO. I think there's an SEO crossover, because again, you're looking at data, you're analyzing that data, you're making the right decisions, you're looking at where to invest your money or not invest your money. So
Oh,
there's
so that's
something.
nice. I picked the right field then to move from poker, at least that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I believe that there's a natural crossover with the skill set in those areas. And as I say, and trading is just so obvious. And and there's just so many markets. Everything from precious metals to currency to crypto. But sort of look at markets where sort of the newer markets, there's certainly more money and
Yeah.
trades to be made in crypto than there are in the traditional markets. So the currency markets, where large companies obviously have a huge edge over the day trader. And accept that, like poker, nearly everyone loses money, and only the extreme professionals and people who put in the most work make money. With all of these types of environments that are uncapped, again, there's no shortcut to it. You need to be giving it 100% effort because other people are going to be there competing against you for the same money. So you're moving from one competitive environment in poker to another one in e-commerce or trading or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it might look easier when you are looking outside a new field and just think you can crush it, but yeah, it's still going to be a grind no matter what you do. Like that's for sure. But what I
Yeah.
really remember you stating, I think it was in that AE masterclass when you said like the best people in the world usually do things differently than the rest. Like,
Hmm.
so how you can get these sort of insights, whatever the field is, like how you can build that network around you or learn from the best. Cause like these usually not are things you can read in a book, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, the very beginning is at the beginning of whatever you're doing, accept that you're a beginner and you need reps. So, when it comes to hypnotherapy, I've done over 15,000 sessions now.
Wow,
Like
that's pretty
it's an
insane.
extraordinary number of sessions. Um, and if you do anything enough times, you're going to get better at it. And it's going to take a long time and it's going to take years and years, whatever industry you're in, to just get the number of hours behind you and get an understanding. You get extremely confident as you get into about 1,000 hours and you think you know everything. And
Okay.
then you
Then you
start to
realize you don't know
realize,
anything.
yeah, that you don't know anything. And then, after about 10,000 hours, you start to get your confidence back again and you realize where you're at. So
So it's
that'd be
mostly
first thing.
repetition?
So I think reps are the basis. So reps are the most important thing in the background. Without the reps, everything else is somewhat irrelevant because information from experts, if you don't have any experience, is relatively useless.
Okay.
So you need to be doing the work in the background, and then find out where the top people in the world are in your industry. So whatever industry it is, there is a place where they meet up. Make sure you're in that room.
Mm.
So, I mean, in
And
crypto,
start
there was a
building the network, right?
oh, it's everything. Yeah, in crypto, there was an ETH conference in Denver. Like most of the serious people in crypto were in Denver a week ago, right? If you're moving into crypto, you need to be at that conference, even if it's an investment, because that's an investment in your future. E-commerce, there are all sorts of e-commerce business groups around the world. You should be in those groups with people more successful than you. Try and get into rooms where you're the least successful person and learn from them. Look for a mentor who's, so many successful people are looking for someone to mentor.
Really, like that's super interesting topic to me. Like I obviously understand the value of networking, and I really sucked at it initially when I think like one of the biggest mistakes I have ever made when I moved away from poker was not investing in networking enough and building surrounding myself with like-minded people, because like in poker it was sort of natural. You travel together, live together, you discuss
Yeah,
hand
that's
through nights to days. But yeah, I do think that cost me a lot of quote unquote ev in the long run, not being able to do that. But how do you get a mentor who is interested to help? Like I was not able to answer that question.
you go to those places and show your face a lot,
And
and you
just bug
ask.
someone.
Well, you don't ask. You ask them questions and let them talk, and you don't talk about yourself so much. So you let them say what they've learned because if you're at the beginning of your journey, what you've learned isn't very interesting to somebody who's 10 years in.
Sure.
You
That
know?
makes a lot of sense, right?
So, the conversation shouldn't be 50-50. It should be 70-80% listening to what the person is telling you and 20-30% of you setting context as to where you are. Um, and understand that a lot of the time those people, when they've had the high levels of success, they're very bored because money a lot of the time isn't interesting past a certain point, and they're looking for somebody to help. because that's going to be interesting for them. If they can help someone else have the same level of success, it proves they weren't just lucky and
Hmm.
that their skills have some value. But you've got to be in those rooms and you've got to be confident enough to have the conversations and not pushy enough to push them away. So it's a fine balance and it's something that takes reps. Again, like you're going to make mistakes, you're going to meet some important people and you're going to annoy them. And that's absolutely fine because you'll learn from doing that. And at another event, you'll do it better and you'll do it better and you'll do it better. Um, but you need to be in those rooms. And I would say that's for any industry, any business, even poker. You need to be building a poker network, and you can do it online in poker, which is nice with different forums, different groups, those sorts of things. But you need to be investing in the network of people around you. It's sort of a time investment anyway. So that you understand what's going on in the industry and again you have that edge.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing to consider, actually putting yourself in position to learn and meet someone rather than thinking, oh, it would be nice to know him, and him. Um, and then just sitting the next day thinking the same thing.
They're not going to knock on your door.
Yeah, that's a pretty much unlikely thing to happen.
No one's come around my house, like I don't.
Searching who to mentor. I love that. And what
Yeah.
about like getting a coach whenever, even when you're just starting a new field? That sounds like a logical thing, I guess, that could speed up the progress. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think coaching is extraordinarily valuable. Obviously, I'm very biased because it's the industry I'm in. But coaching is a shortcut to not make the same mistakes that person has made.
If you manage to find a
If you
reasonable coach.
if you find the right coach, and finding a coach can be difficult, and there are people out there who aren't qualified. But again, if you're networking in the right places, it's going to be quite obvious who the credible people are and who the
Hmm.
people are who might be scamming. But again, it's the don't just put in Google what you're looking for and click the link and pay the person. Um, Go to the networking events, fly to them if you have to, accept that that's part of the cost of business, um, and invest that time and money to work out who you want to be learning from. I think a lot of people don't want to invest in themselves when it's their own business. But I mean, certainly in the States, the amount of investment people make in higher education is huge. So, they'll come
Yeah,
out
you
with
guys are
200.
known for that.
Oh, it's like they'll come out with $200,000 worth of debt and, a degree in something that's not going to give them a job.
Hopefully not for our diploma or something.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And and just a small percentage of that money invested in flying around the world, finding experts, going to networking events, spending time with them is just there's so much more upside in that than I believe in a formal education that's not leading to a specific professional qualification.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
if you would have been happy spending it on, your politics degree or your art degree or I've got, a degree in politics and sociology. It's completely useless for the work I do.
Right.
It was fun and I learned a lot, but
And you
um,
meet probably many interesting people, which is
yeah,
quite a
but
big part of going to this school,
it's
I guess.
fun. But that the same time and effort spent going to networking events and meeting people who've actually been successful, um, there'll be many multiples more money would have been made
Yeah,
over.
I agree. And like, even if you get to the point where you get the ball rolling in the right direction, let's put it that way, how to make it sustainable in the long term? Like, should you build some sort of routines around it? Like, which I think helped me tremendously. Like, actually not having to think whether I do exercise in the morning or not. I just do it. Like, there's no question about that at this point.
Yeah.
So do you see some common habits like successful people actually have, whether it's health or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, almost everyone takes their health very seriously who I work with. Like nearly every client I have, they're all highly successful because of my price point. Nearly all of them have trainers. They're all very busy people and they all set aside time to work out and make sure that they're fit and healthy. Personally, I take it very, very seriously. I have a personal trainer here 4 days a week. And then I do
Ooh,
a fifth day of exercise separate to that. Um, I have a masseuse here once a week. I do a stretching program once a week, and I have my own coach every 2 weeks. And those things are in my calendar before any of my clients can book in. So
So
I
you
know
prioritize that part
that,
rather than
yeah,
anything else you do.
yeah, because if I'm looking after myself, I'm going to be able to perform better for my clients, and I'm going to be able to do this for longer without burning out.
Yeah, I love it.
And if I stop doing the self-care and I stop exercising and I stop, having massages to de-stress and all of those things, at some stage, my performance for my clients is going to drop, and then my reputation will drop, and it will really significantly impact my business. So I've built an entire framework around, I know on Tuesdays I'm working out at this time, on Wednesdays at this time, on Thursdays at this time, on Sundays it's this time, on Fridays I try to either take a hike or go skiing because I live near the mountains. Like this is how I structure my week every single week of the year.
Okay, that's
And that
huge.
means, yeah, it just changes your life. Everything is so simple.
I mean, obviously not everyone can get like personal trainer every day or whatever, but everyone can block a time in the calendar and say from 1 p.m.
This
to
is
3 p.m. I'm in the gym, no matter what happens. The problem is
definitely,
then sticking to it, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it's turning it into something that's a non-negotiable.
Okay. So like
And
is that the secret to staying consistent with your routines? Because like I jump back and forth with this a lot actually. Like and going to the gym is one of those things. If I have not blocked the time, I always have what else to do and end up not going there. Like so what can we do here?
in honesty, that's why I chose to use a trainer. So I'm not using a trainer because I particularly need to be told what to do. I'm using a trainer because I won't send my trainer home and cancel a session with them.
Right.
So
Okay,
it
that makes a lot of
guarantees it
sense.
happens. And I'm in a fortunate situation where I can afford to do that. But I made the decision to invest in that way when it was a financial struggle for me to invest in that way. So I
So it's
saw
not
it as
that
a
you wait until
priority.
you can afford everything, right? You
No,
firstly
no,
invest
you
in yourself.
invest in yourself first so that you're competent enough to deserve to make more money. And if you believe something's going to improve your focus and improve your, like, optimize you for your work, then that should come first because then you're turning up every other day at a higher level than you would have done.
Mm,
And that's the way I viewed this framework, is that if I can show up better, I'll perform better, my clients will get better results, those clients with better results will tell more of their friends, my business will build. And as I say, I chose to invest in that when it was a push for us, for me to invest in that. But it worked. It doesn't mean it worked for everyone, but it
yeah.
worked for me.
It's hard to imagine a situation where that would not work. Like, I guess the worst case, you just unwind that part uh,
Yeah.
and start doing it yourself, but still you're in a better shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I need to go back and start doing it. I actually hired a personal trainer as well. Starting last year, it's already quite a while. And as you say, I also not particularly did that for the guidance, but that just to book. Like I know that at that time, at least I will do. I just do it once per week, but at least that
Yeah.
one time I'm exercising.
It's was 100% going to happen because you're not
Right?
going to. Yeah.
Maybe 99.
Okay. Yeah. You might get sick. Yeah.
Yeah, things happen, I guess.
Mhm.
But other than that, like, so you build. I don't know even how to frame it. You build your life around like taking care of yourself, which that gives you more energy, more motivation to reach other goals. And I do think that's quite uncommon way to do it because most people do it the other way around.
Yeah. And I mean, I just saw it through so many high performers that if you keep seeing successful people doing the same thing, you're an idiot if you don't copy them,
Yeah, that
you know?
makes sense.
So, there's all of these people, they have their time is really valuable, and all of them are putting effort into getting fit and healthy. Okay, there's a theme here. Why would I not be doing the same as them?
Yeah,
So, and anyone listening to this, if you don't think health and fitness is important, give it a try for 3 months and see if your life's different. And for most people, if they put in real effort for 3 months, they'll understand that they're performing better
yeah.
than they were prior to putting in that effort.
No, I agree. It would be hard to argue that health is important at this point. I guess there are
Some
too
people
too many
do.
evidence, right? Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, there are people arguing anything and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, that might not be the way to cut it. But what I really want to talk about with you is having fear of success or failure. You have talked about this a lot publicly,
Yeah.
and it's something I struggle as well, unconsciously, probably for the most part.
Yeah.
But this really comes into light with all of the new changes which AI introduced in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty what can happen. I feel it personally as well. Like Google changed some sort of algorithm, we lose half of our traffic. Oh, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe we'll lose another 50%. Maybe it's go back. Who knows? But it introduced that layer of uncertainty. I mean, do you have any like takeaway tips how to deal with that sort of thing, and how
Um,
to concentrate on a bigger picture per se?
what you have to do is just in all cases, you need to be worrying about what you can control.
Right.
So, what can I be doing today that will move me further forward than I was when I woke up this morning? And the game may change, the dynamic in the background, like as you say, Google can change an algorithm. Facebook, I remember 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Facebook made the big Apple. There was the big Apple change with Facebook ads, and it crushed tons of e-commerce companies.
Hmm.
And some people, they never recovered from it. Others accepted that there was just a new reality. And the faster you can accept the new reality and say, okay, well, what's optimal for me to do today? This is where we are now. What can I change? How can I work hard? How can I make sure I'm as successful as I can possibly be in this new reality? We don't know what AI is going to do, but we know that it's not there today. It's not taking away our jobs today. So what can we do today to make sure we can be as efficient as we possibly can? So it's just dragging yourself back rather than daydreaming. Feeling guilt or shame about the past or feeling
It's all
fear about
gone.
yeah, just back to the present moment. If if someone was saying to me, what is the most money I can make in the next week, what would I do? You should be doing all of those things every day,
Okay, I
and
like
just
that.
repeating that very simplistic framework. Um, so yeah, that would be my basic tips: is live in the present, accept you can't control everything, but on those areas you can control, put in that effort to make sure that you are taking control of them.
Okay, I guess that's at least a concept not too hard to understand for poker players, because you sort of need to concentrate on what you can control, or otherwise you're kind of
Yeah, you're
not
gonna freak
going to do well,
out.
to say the least, right? Yeah, that's a great answer. I do have a few quick questions though to wrap this up. So let's do our fire question section, I guess.
Okay.
Can you name the your favorite book?
Ooh, The Art of Learning, Josh Waitzkin.
Oh, I read that one probably after your recommendation as well. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I really like that book. And also I always loved 1984 as fiction. It's
Ooh, I
become
don't
more
know that one.
prophetic. 1984 is yeah, it's a good book. A
Okay,
fiction book, but yeah, they're worth
I will
checking
take a
out.
look at that one. I
Yeah.
trust you. uh, what is the most exciting thing for you at this moment?
We released the audiobook a few days ago. So
Okay,
launching that is so this is in the business. Like the most exciting thing is watching my kids grow up. Like that's just the truth.
sure.
But business wise,
You
anytime we
can
launch,
have two most exciting things. That's fine.
yeah, exactly. Like personal life and professional. But just anytime we launch a product, like seeing how it goes out, what happens. Yeah. So this week, that's the fun thing that's happening.
Okay, that's nice. And what is the best way to relax after a hard day for you?
For me, I like the very best way is going for a massage for me. Like that definitely makes a big difference. I feel like carry stress in my body. So that's the best way. And then also I do meditate. I use a sauna most days. I find that really effective.
Oh, I like that as well. Like to relax both body and head, I guess,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
some degree.
And I mean, if you can meditate, I try and meditate in the sauna because then I'm using the time for two
Yeah.
things at the same
Oh, that's nice. I actually have tried it multiple times, but was not able to concentrate on it. I don't know, but like
time. Just the pain. Yeah.
I don't know why, but yeah, it sounds funny. And the last one, I guess, what would be the one and easiest thing anyone can do today to increase their performance in whatever they're doing?
I mean, the easiest thing is getting more sleep,
Okay, having proper rest.
proper rest. I think so many people, this grind mindset that's been pushed over the years, is ineffective. And, this getting up at 4 a.m. every day and getting 5 hours sleep, I think it diminishes performance over time. So I would recommend try and make sure you're getting between 7 and 8 hours sleep a day. Typically, the extra sleep will help you perform better than cutting your sleep, trying to, yeah, get in these extra hours. I don't see it as effective long term when people are getting up in the middle of the night and not getting proper sleep and rest and
Right.
recovery.
You can drag for a while, but as you say, long
Yeah,
term,
the
that's not
short term.
going to help.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, the way I would view any schedule that you create is when you look at it, think, could I repeat this for a whole year?
Yeah.
And if you look at it and you think there's no way I can do this without burning out, there's too much in your schedule. This would be something that this becomes a routine you can do for infinity. And if it's not, the schedule's balanced incorrectly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I do think that people overestimate how much they can do in the long term and they just want to do everything now, which
Yeah.
I'm guilty of for sure as well. But trying to get better at least. Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, shoot it.
yeah, I was just going to agree with you. It's something people really should look at. Hey, what you can do over 2 years is massive, and
Yeah.
what you can do a week is somewhat irrelevant most of the time.
Yeah. So sticking to the plan is the way to go, I guess, for the most part.
Yeah. It's all basic.
All simple. You just need to do it. Every
Exactly.
conversation ends the same way. Everything is super simple. You just
Yeah.
actually need to do it, right?
Yeah. Just don't just read about it. Read the book and
Yeah.
actually do the homework and do the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for an amazing conversation, Elliot. Maybe you can just wrap this by saying where people can learn more about what you do, how to find you,
Yeah.
what's the best way to connect.
So yeah, primedmind.com is where the app is, and there's an application page there for coaching. My personal coaching page is elliotroe.com. And then you can find me on Twitter and you can find me on Instagram if you search Elliot Roe. But obviously, check out the app. It's free to download. It's got loads of content for poker, and that's Prime Mind on the App Store and the Android.
Yeah, I can double dap as well. Like, I mean, I can probably consume all of your content that you have released over
Oh,
the
I
years.
appreciate it, man. It's so cool to hear.
Yeah, but even going back to like MP3 recordings for cooling
The
down after
old
the
school.
session. Yeah, yeah. That's nice. And Prime Man is also like extremely useful and a quick thing to do. It only like can use for a few minutes per day and still
Yeah.
have the benefits of
And
it.
you feel that shift.
Yeah. And okay, appreciate it again. Thanks for being
Mm,
here. Hopefully not our last conversation. Um,
definitely not. And man, I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. And for putting in all that effort with the mindset stuff over the years. Like, well done.
let's see how it continues.
Good stuff.
Okay, man. Have a great day. Thanks again.